All right, in this video, what I want to do is take you through how to navigate from one view to the next and to pass data when you do that. And we want to do it in UIKit, which is somewhat involved, and then I'm going to show you how easy it is to do in Swift UI. So let's jump in. So what I have here is a UIKit project that's already been set up with a table view with our favorite cities like we've shown in the previous videos on doing table views. So I don't want to duplicate that again. I did change the structure a little bit. We're using a struct now for the city data, and then we have this variable favorite cities that is an array of these structs, because what we want to do is just show the name in the parent view, and then as we dive in or navigate into a detail view, we'll actually show the city name and the population. And we'll be passing that data to that view. So we're starting out basically like this, and if I were to run this in the simulator, this is what I would get, right? And nothing happens here. It's just a table view that obviously if I click on something, nothing happens, and it does select it. So let's dive in. So the first thing we need to do in UIKit is, if we want to be part of a navigation view, we need to embed ourselves as embedded in a navigation view. And we can do that by having this view controller selected, and I can go up here to editor and say embed in a navigation controller. And as soon as I do that, then it pops me in to this navigation controller, which is a new view controller. And notice the initial start now is that view controller itself. So that's the first thing. The next thing we need to do is look at the other view that we want to navigate into. And so what I'm going to do is add a new view controller. Into our project here. And this one is going to be associated with this city detail view controller. So I've just got the basic code here for this right now. We're going to fill that out, but at least I've created it. So here we're going to come up to here, and we are going to, let's see, select this. And with this selected, I want to say that this is going to be associated to city detail view controller. So now that I've done that, then notice the assistant editor has got the right piece of code for the right thing selected here. So now that we've done that, then we want to express the fact that we want to segue from here to here based on a tap. So the first thing we need to do is create the segue. And so we can create the segue by clicking on this and dragging over to here. And I'm going to pick the show segue. And so now I have a segue created here. The next thing we need to do is on the segue, I'm going to select it, and I want to give it a name. So let's make sure we just have the segue selected, and we're going to give it an identifier. We'll call it city detail segue. Okay, so I've structurally sort of set some of this up, and for the main capabilities of being in a navigation view and then using a segue to transition into that view. So now let's look at some of the code that we would need to do to make this work. So again, I've already sort of created the table view code, so there's not much new to do there, although there are a few new things that we're going to do with the table view. But one of them is that we're going to basically perform a segue when something is tapped on our table view. So the first thing we could say is, well, there's going to be a table view did select, right? So if we say table view did select row at index path, we now have the code that's going to run when we tap on a particular item in the table view. So at this point, where this code is where we actually want to call our segue. So we haven't created that yet, so let's do that. So we're going to say segue, as in prepare for segue. So here's prepare for segue. And we are now going to actually get the data, get the view controller of where we're headed, i.e. we're going from the parent into this particular view controller. So I'll usually do like let vc equals segue dot destination, and then I will cast it to be the city detail view controller. And I know that if this is set up right in the storyboard, this should not fail. So that would be our first thing in the segue. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to assume that we're going to be sent an index path here from the sender of the particular city that was selected. So here we can say let index path equal sender as index path. So now we're saying that whatever's passed here is going to be an index path. Now we can say VC dot, and then city is, if we look over here, city is here. This is the thing we want to set. So we now have access to it. So we can say vc.city equals favorite cities index path dot row. Let's see if that compiles. And that does. So we're good here. Now with this table view did select row at index path, I can say perform segue with identifier, and the identifier is going to be city detail segue. Now, this is also a source of error because you can misname them. Even though I've named it a certain name here, I could mistype this and type it differently. So this is just one of these things with UIKit that you have to deal with between the storyboards and the code. The other thing is here's sender, and this is where we're going to send in index path. So this is the index path that we got. So with that, now that builds. And so I think that's getting pretty close, pretty good to what we want to cause that transition to happen. So let's run this and see where we are so far. So if I look in the simulator, it gives me the list, and notice when I tap on it, it goes to a view controller, although everything's blank at the moment. So let's work on filling out the details of that view controller. So that's the city detail view controller right here. And of course, we don't do anything yet, right? So when this view is loaded, this city data should be set to what we want. So the first thing we want to do is let's go back to our storyboard a minute, and notice it's just blank here. So let's go ahead and add, why don't we add a stack view? So we'll do a vertical stack in here. And then what I'm going to do is add in 2 labels. So we'll go here just so I can easily get to the stack view. I'm going to add a label. We'll drop that right under stack view here. And then we're going to do another label and drop that right underneath. So now I have these 2 labels. In these 2 labels, why don't on the stack view we pin it to the center vertically. So we'll add that constraint in here. I'm going to pin it to 20 and 20 on both sides there. So we'll add that. So now we have this stack view here. And then what we can do is for this first one is going to be the city name. So I can drag that over as a IB outlet. So we'll call it city name label. And I misspelled it, but that's fine. And then we'll do city population label. Good. Now I can actually access these. So I can say city name lab, as in label, is going to be equal to city.name. And city name or city population label will equal string of city.population, since that's an int. And this, of course, should be .text and .text. So now we can build, and let's run this and see what happens. So here's our simulator. We see the different ones. If I tap on Chicago, I get Chicago with the amount. If I tap on Boston, I get Boston. Austin, I get Austin. Okay, so that's looking good. We're passing data from a top level navigation view down to a detailed view, and we're showing that data. So now let's look at how we would do that in Swift UI. So we're going to switch over. And now in Swift UI, where I'm starting is I have the content view here at the top, and then I have the city detail view here. And this is set up for, let's just go ahead and hit build here and then resume. And we get New York and 0 because that's kind of our set data here. But we're going to want to pass that data down. So we're going to go back to the content view here. And we have our VStack with our list that just is the table view here. So what we want to do is say, well, we want it to be in a navigation view. So really all we have to do is right click or command click on VStack and say embed. And I can say embed and type in navigation view. And I have now put this in a navigation view. The next thing is I want to, whenever this is iterated over, rather than just having text, I want this to be a navigation link to something else. So the way we can do that is I can just go here and say navigation link, and I can say destination and label. So all I did is complete what it gave me there. And then I'm going to take this text that I had before and put it where the label is. So I have that label there. Now you'll notice over here on the right, it's been building as we go along, and it's given me these adornments for disclosure, the disclosure indicators automatically because it's sitting in a navigation link. But the destination is this text destination, and we don't want that. We want it to be that city detail view. So we can just say city detail view and then city, and then obviously we're just passing city here. So we're passing city, and that should cause us to navigate. So literally by adding navigation view and switching the text, embedding it in a navigation link, I believe we have gotten to the same spot. So what I'm going to do is just run this. I could run it right here, but I'm going to run it on in the simulator. And so here we have our items. Now you'll notice in this, because we used a list here, which is kind of a fancy adornment, much more fancy than what we did with UIKit, because these were just simple table view cells. So we do get this nice gray background, and we will be able to put a title up here. But at least to show this working, if we click on Chicago, there it is, Chicago, 22,700,000. We get the back button. We do Boston. We get Boston. So literally by only changing really 2 lines of code here, we basically added the navigation view as our main view. And by the way, that's the only view in your whole application unless you're doing tab views. But if otherwise, the navigation view is only ever declared once. And then all the others do not redeclare it. They're just part of that hierarchy as they step down. Then we had the VStack, then we had the list, and then we had this navigation link. So we did navigation link and navigation view, and that's all it took for us to get navigation in our app. Now, one other thing just to show you in Swift UI is I could set a title for this. So I could add a modifier, and you add it on the first embedded view that's in the navigation view, because different views can have different titles. So you don't put it on the navigation view itself, because that's only going to be declared once right at the beginning. So here we could say navigation title, favorite cities, and you'll see if we resume here, we will then get that nice title here. And if we go down into city detail, we could even change that here. So we could say dot navigation title is going to be maybe the city name. Maybe we want to show that again. So we could say city.name here. And now when we run this again, which I'll just do from the simulator, so we have favorite cities here, and then if I tap into this, it puts Chicago right there at the top. because that's what we used for our navigation title and back. So that's how easy it is to do navigation in SwiftUI and to pass data.